Good morning, everybody. We are making great progress on our discussion about Christian lifestyle and finances. And this week we're going to be talking about planning for retirement. What do you think? Big question. What is retirement? Did anybody define that for me?
Done working for someone else.
Done working for someone else. If we have a potluck today, let's go first in line. Well, yes, but you could also be self-employed.
It could be, but
And
nonetheless,
retire.
you're still working to provide. Not working for yourself in a sense of doing whatever you want because you want to do it.
I like where you're going. Yeah.
You know, retirement is you don't have to. If you own a business, you're still working for providing. If
Okay.
you're retired, you're working because you want to do that because you're bored.
Okay.
You're doing stuff you want to do. If you want to work in the front yard, you're working for yourself.
I like where you're going with that. I like. What do you think of this idea that I stop doing it because I have to, and I move into this phase of I have more doing the things I want to do in life versus I have to do. I've kind of evolved from a obligation type of a situation to now I can enjoy the fruits of that. Any of our retired folks agree with that? Maybe. Yeah. So I like that. Like what you're saying there. So give me more of that. Retirement. What is
I
it?
think traveling. Like, you save money so you can go see things that you couldn't see
Okay.
early in life, I guess.
Okay.
Spend more time with your family.
Because what do I have in retirement that I don't have when I'm time? That is one of the big ones, right? I have lots of time, but what might I not have when I'm retiring that I have lots of when I'm working? Money. So, like, okay, now I've got this strange situation where I'm going to have all this time. What else do I have in my younger years that I don't have when I'm older?
Your children.
Children at home, obligations, responsibilities at home,
Your youth.
your youth, and
Health.
what comes with that?
Energy.
Ability, health,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know.
When there's somebody said, youth is wasted on the young, that's wasted on a 16-year-old, if you had that kind of vitality and that kind of youth and that kind of energy and health and everything in your later years, you'd be dangerous, wouldn't you? So we're thinking about, retirement is this time when I can stop doing the things I have to do and evolve into things I have time to do, I prefer to do. And I can tell you personally, in my own life, I'm right there on the edge, to share with you. I've got grandchildren, they're not here, and every day that goes by, I feel like I'm losing a day with them, and I want to, have the time and the ability to go be with the people I want to be with for the years that I have left, which may not be very many, because you don't really know, right? But there's also living for today, isn't there? Yep. Living for today and not necessarily living for tomorrow. How many of us know somebody who's worked their whole life to retire, and they retire, and then their life's taken from them, right there at the end. So there is this blend we have to do. Enjoy the time we have now. Live for today, prepare for tomorrow. We're going to talk a bit about that. So when we talk about retirement, what do we think of? I have time to do the things I want to do. What else?
Resources.
Say that again?
Limited resources.
I might have limited resources, so how can I maybe prepare that, right, when I'm younger so that I have more plentiful resources later? Do we actually ever retire?
They say no.
Or wouldn't you say, I think we have 4 elders, right? I think all but one of them are retired from the working world, as far as I know, right? Are they retired? What are they using this time for now?
Volunteering.
Yeah.
Their services.
Yeah, volunteering their talents, their skills, their experience, their wisdom to really in a bigger endeavor, right, than just making money. So maybe we offer up our time later on to really be fruitful, right, and really produce good things, So we're going to think on those topics today and look at retirement and how we can plan for it, okay? This is really all about planning for retirement. Proverbs 21:20. Someone want to read this for us? Off the screen.
Precious treasures and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours them.
What do you think of that? The closest I can explain my real life experience with this was before we had children, we blew money like sailors, on a weekend. It was like we just blew And it wasn't until we really had children you start to realize, hey, hang on a second, I got to be a little more responsible here, better stewards of the blessings I have. You kind of move from this hee-haw, I got a job, how much can I spend mode, to let me be a little bit more wise of the treasures and the oils that I have here and store up and prepare. Yeah.
My
Yes.
version says the wise have wealth and luxury, and the fools spend whatever they get.
Oh, yeah. What version is that?
It's the NLT.
Yeah, that's good. The fools spend whatever they get. Is that what it says? So, you might have a good salary today, you might have a good job, got all these great things today. You could blow it today, knock yourself out. There's going to be a time when you're going to look back and say, man, if I'd only put some of that aside, if I only saved some of that, if I only been a little more responsible with that, if I only prepared for later, because the way you feel, I'm going to speak to my younger folks here, the way you feel right now, you're not going to feel this way all for the rest of your life. Can I get an amen from my...
Amen.
You're gonna get up in the morning and be like a little creakier, a little slower. You're not gonna want to do the things you're doing right now, and you're gonna have children. You have other responsibilities, and you're gonna say, "I would like to stop working for someone else pretty soon. Can I afford to do it? Not really, because I blew it all 20, 30, 40 years ago, right?" So I love these wise words here from Proverbs. Precious treasure and oil in a wise man's dwelling. What's your version say at the front of that verse?
The wise have wealth and luxury.
Yeah. Okay. So they have great things. The foolish have blown it, right? So I was thinking in a sense of, are we being wise with our blessings? Yeah. Thoughts about that?
As a young adult, my dad definitely tried to teach me and tried to get me to grasp that, the understanding of being wise with your finances. However, once I got the job and, then I started to get into this, now I can afford that, because I was the child that you couldn't have a car unless you can afford your insurance.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I can get a car, but then I notice, I'm like, well, she has and they have, and, then you start to get into this buying mode. So, like you had spoke earlier about really grounding that into your children and the savings, and, retirement was never a worry. So like you're saying, as far as, really young to really grasp
Yeah.
that and teach that.
And teaser, spoiler alert, next week, Brian's going to introduce a topic about helping children learn about money and raising children up with a good money sense. How do we teach our children about money? That's coming next week. That is, if you can think about this when you're early. I think I mentioned this back a few weeks ago, too. When Laura graduated college, she got her first job. She's 22 years old. I brought up about a 401k to her, and she looked at me like, are you crazy? Like, oh, you want me to think about my 60s and 70s when I'm 22 years old? I mean, it was like, I'm talking yeesh, she didn't get what I'm talking about. But then time goes on, 5, 10, 8 years go on, and she goes, I kind of wish I'd have started 5 years ago, because she sees the patches of time go really fast, and you can't get those years back.
Yeah, without getting too much into next week's class, I started them on little things like, that they need this, they gotta have this for Christmas, and then what happens in a month now, they're not playing with it anymore.
Right.
Having that conversation of, the same thing happens with adults, and you look at the fancy things that they buy, and well, they determine, I didn't really need that. Maybe I could have saved for something a little bit more long term or more worthwhile. So, we're having some of those conversations, but it kind of fits into what we're talking about with this verse as well. So, they might not fully understand, but there's things there's elements that they deal with, even as kids that tie.
Yeah. And there's so much in there. There's so much stuff to learn from that. And I think I mentioned once, everything I learned in life, I learned from Star Trek, Bible class, and my algebra teacher in high school. Ever say that? And there's a great line of wisdom from Star Trek that I'm going to share with you. Guys, have you ever watched the old Star Trek? Mr. Spock had a great line. He said, having is not as pleasing a thing as wanting. It's not logical, but it's often true. It's very true. You know, the joy is in the wanting, but then the habit, you find out that it's not as pleasing a thing after all. You know, so think on it. Yes, ma'am. Do you have your hand up back there? I thought there was a hand.
I used to ask to watch Star Trek, so I.
Okay. Oh yeah. The original Star Trek. The original. So let's keep going here. Go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. Let's think about our life. What is the summer of our life? You're young, vibrant,
Yeah.
energy. I have great earning potential. I have all this, you know, I'm able to go out and do any job you ask me to do, right? My mental acuity is sharp, you know, I'm strong. You know, that's the summer of your life, right? How are you using the summer of your life?
Be dumb.
To party?
Yeah.
To be lazy? Are you sleeping through the summer of your life? Remember, any Seinfeld fans? Remember Summer of George? Any Seinfeld fans? Yeah. Summer of George. He lost his job, so he's going to have a Summer of George, and he was just going to party all summer and play, and of course he gets an accident, he's in the hospital the whole summer. So, yeah, right?
Oh.
Are you going to just waste your summer of your life away? Or are you going to gather, store up? Because what is the harvest of your life?
Terrible.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm going to reap, right? What I've sown early on in my life, I'm going to harvest it later. Is there anything to harvest there, or am I going to be in a pretty bad spot? Or am I going to have to extend this working window well farther than I would prefer to? Right? Now I've taken away opportunities to really serve in a meaningful way and maybe be with family and things like that. We talked about this one last week, the prudent see danger and hide or takes cover. But the simple go on and suffer. I mean, are we looking ahead? Are we seeing what's coming ahead? Right? Are we seeing what's coming down the road? Are we paying attention? Do we have our high beams on? Right? Or are we just blasting ahead and not thinking about the future and what the road ahead of us is and the curves and windy areas ahead? Are we planning for that? Are we thinking about that? So Proverbs is just stuffed full of good stuff here. Okay? And let's flip over to Luke 12, okay? Luke 12. (16 to 21). Someone like to read this for us? 16 to 21.
And he told him this parable: the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God.
Yeah. Wow. What do we take from that? What message is packed into that?
Well, we need to be rich towards God.
Yeah, rich towards God. It isn't all about your bank account, right? It isn't all about more, gather. I'm going to have this great retirement, and I'm going to retire at 50, and I'll live for 30 or 40 more years, and I have this wonderful... I mean, that's not saying you don't know here. So how do we balance all these together? We look for danger, prepare, but yet, what should our mindset be? What should our perspective be?
I think that if you have extra money in it, maybe you should put it towards things that God would want you to put it towards.
Yeah.
You know, like put a little more in tithing, I don't know.
Mhm.
Instead of gathering way too much for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the for yourself is the real meat of that, right? Is who is the focus of my effort? I've been blessed with a good job, I'm blessed with good health for many years, been blessed with a good family, blessed with a peaceful society that's allowed me to flourish and prosper. Is that all my doing? Is it because I'm a genius?
No.
You know? I mean, where do these blessings come from? Yeah. So who's going to be the real benefactor of these blessings at the end? Who's going to be glorified through that? Me? It's going to be glorified by this huge house that I've bought in retirement and this big boat. And I see guys all driving the Corvette. You ever see that? You know, the guy, he probably can't even get out of that thing. I don't know how he gets in and out. He's driving his Corvette, you know. And you see the wife, and she doesn't seem too happy in that thing. But man, he bought his Corvette. He finally had it, you know. As opposed to, how am I really spending these harvest years, right? When I have wisdom, and now I've got the peace and the comfort and the time to do good work, right? And I mean, one of the other messages is you don't know what tomorrow holds, right? You might be here into your 90s, you might not be, you know? And I'll tell you something else about that. At the very end, it says here, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? And whenever, I'm sure many of us have, buried their parents.
Yeah.
That is a sobering thing. Very sobering thing. If you have not done that, if you have not pulled the threads of someone's tapestry of life, just thread by thread by thread, and watch their life just become truckloads of the goodwill, basically. You know, it's sobering that all those years, all that stuff was so important to work for all this stuff, and then at the end, it's meaningless, right? So it's this. So isn't it kind of this balance between living for today, glorifying God today, but then preparing for a long life, and how am I going to spend that life, and do I have options, and am I in control of my life, or am I going to live miserably? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the scriptures that I had in one of my classes that towards the end that we didn't get to was Proverbs 13:22, kind of hits on what we're talking about. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the opposite. Sometimes parents leave a tremendous burden upon their children, or things that they have to pay off, or whatever. Having that storehouse might not also be for you. It might be for to pass on and like maybe help your children start a better life than maybe you had.
We have a healthy mindset. We're not the center of everything here. What is the purpose of our life? We look back and say that person glorified God and they prepared and they left a legacy. Man, that would be so good to be thought of and talked about that way, wouldn't it? As opposed to, look at the big house that he died in. Linda, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it kind of goes back to the very first class that you mentioned. It has to do with trust. Like, who are you? You can prepare, but you also have to have the faith and trust that God's going to provide for you and take care of you in your later years. That doesn't mean that you can be wild and reckless. You can be smart with your things, but also don't get so over-consumed with, how am I going to provide? I have to work really, really hard to provide so that I have a better retirement, because, again, you don't know what your life is,
Right.
but trust that God's going to. He knows what it is.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, with my grandma, she left me everything basically, but she instilled into my mind like that I needed to keep all her things, and it played with me as the years went by. After she was gone, like, oh, I should have kept this, or I should, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things like the hoarding thing, like,
Yeah.
and I still feel guilty sometimes giving things away, that I gave things away, because I'm like, I felt like she was just right there, like, you should have kept that. And I'm like, no.
Still messing with me all these
Still
years.
messing with me.
My mother tried that too. Yeah, and we can talk for hours and hours about that. This stuff means something to me. It's not going to mean anything to my kids. I mean, I have people that have been in my house now. I have a lot of military models and stuff. And Jill's told me, the day after I die, the sound you're going to hear is beep, beep, beep. That's the dump truck backing up. That's not going to go in the garden. It just means something to me. For me to impose that on someone else is just not healthy. So anyway, but yeah, we could talk for hours and hours. So we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago. About we have different sources of income, different sources of savings, financing. Can come through these different elements, and so I want to talk a little bit about that, and also I would like to focus on this timeline. If you think about planning for retirement, what kind of timeline are we talking about? Now, for 25-year-olds in the room, 18-year-olds in the room, 20-year-olds, this looks like the end of civilization. The closest I ever came to that, I was I think in 7th grade. We were sitting in the gym room above our gymnasium in the locker, the equipment area. My friend and I were talking about how old we'd be at the turn of the century. I'll never forget that.
7 years.
Yeah, we were sitting there thinking, oh, we're going to be 35. I'm going to be 35 at the turn of the century. And for a 7th grader, that seemed like Star Trek years. Like, this is so far in the future. Why would I ever even think about that? And that was 26 years ago. And it's amazing how those days come. Those years came, they went, and they've gone again. So, if the Lord chooses not to come back between now and then, the years will tick away, and I'm going to be 62 in a few weeks. I never thought about being 62 years old. But it starts to really sink in after a while. I still feel like the 17-year-old in my head, So anybody know what happens at 59 and a half?
Yeah.
What happens at 59 and a half?
You're allowed to get your IRA.
Yeah.
Penalties.
This is the point at which you can start to withdraw any kind of an IRA account, individual retirement account, without penalty. So you can pull it out any time, but you're going to pay a penalty. So 59 and a half, you could really look at that as the moment in which I could access my retirement accounts, and the government doesn't care, right? Now, there's taxes and everything that you depend on what kind of account you have. But if you're thinking about your saving versus investing balance in your time frame, maybe that's a good target to be looking at and say, hey, at that moment I can start to access them and I can start to, go into low gear and start to slow down. And so, okay, now you may not want to do that. There's tax implications. There's always tax implications. But that's the point at which they're intended to be accessed. Retirement window really begins in the government's mind at 59 and a half. What happens at 73, the other end of the spectrum here?
You start to withdraw it, or you're
That's-
mandated.
That's when you have to start withdrawing. So if you look at it like at 59 and a half, I can start to withdraw it. What happens at 73? I have to start withdrawing it. Okay, now these are traditional IRAs, ones that are tax deferred. If you're young today, I'd kind of highly recommend an IRA or a Roth, but so Roth is not subject to this 73, okay? Because it's already been paid tax. It's tax free when you pull it out. So they don't make you pull that out. But any kind of a 401k or an IRA that's a traditional, that's been pre-tax pulled out, you've got to start pulling that out by 73. And if you talk to any kind of a banker, they'll tell you that there's a lot of people retired that they don't want to do that. They have to force them to pull it out. That's why they mandated this. Because if you don't force me to pull this out and I die, and I never pull it out, from the government's perspective, what happened there?
They don't give taxes.
They didn't collect the taxes on it. So they're like, you got to start pulling it out so they can start taxing it. And you die and it goes inherited by someone else and they don't pull it out, and you see what I mean? It never gets taxed. So they're like, you got to start pulling this out. So you can think about that in your planning. Okay? What happens at 62?
That early Social Security.
This is the earliest that you can withdraw Social Security. Okay? So again, for your planning window, well, I can start accessing my IRA accounts here. Just a couple years later, I can start pulling in Social Security at the reduced rate, right? So I can actually start to get Social Security at 62. Now, I've run into more and more people lately who don't pay into Social Security for some reason. Like, they work for, some entity that has something in lieu of Social Security. I've run into a lot of people like that lately. So those are different things. But if you're paying a regular FICA, W-2, you're working on W-2, you're paying FICA, here's the point at which you can start withdrawing. I should add another number. What's 70?
Probably full retirement.
No, close.
So,
This is the latest that you can start taking Social Security.
right.
Okay? So you can wait till 70 to start taking it. Okay? So I can start taking it at 62, or I can wait until 70 to take it. The longer you wait, the more you're going to get. So think about that. But there's a whole mathematical formula there that, if I delay taking it, well, those are years I didn't have it. So how much did I lose by not taking it? Right? And then where's the break-even point? And the longer you wait, the farther out the break-even point is. I mean, there's a lot of people who say, don't wait till 70. Even though you're going to get a lot, if you wait till 70, your break-even point's not until like 87 or 83 years old or something. You might not live that long. So it might not have any sense to wait that long, right? It's usually about 11 years, that's generally you can say. So at like 62, my break-even point's like 73. All right? Well, if I think I'm gonna live past 73, maybe it makes sense to wait,
You don't know?
right? So it's a kind of a gamble. Yes, sir.
I was hoping to wait until 70, but I got to the point where I had to start taking it. I need my money.
Yeah.
And then I found out my daughter could also draw. She got about $16,000.
I don't need to know the details, but is there some disability or something that causes that?
Oh,
She could draw.
because I was drawing it, and she was under 18, she could draw too.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah. What happens at 67? Troy? You said it?
I say it full.
That's full retirement. Now, this for this half of the room, mostly. If this number has moved for the previous generation, like full retirement used to be 65, and as time went on, it crept up. So some people are retired probably at 65 was their full retirement. 67 full retirement for, I think, if you're 60 or if you're born in 1960 or later. 1960 or later, your full retirement is 67. So what that means is you can take your full 100% Social Security number and still work if you want. If you take Social Security before that and you're still working and earned income, they're going to tax the daylights out of you, or they're going to feed the daylights out of it. It's kind of not worth it.
Is it that if you earn over a certain dollar amount?
They take, if I'm not mistaken, they take $1 of Social Security for every $2 you earn. Right. So basically, imagine if your Social Security was $30,000 here, hypothetically, and you were making $50,000 in an earned income, it would wipe it all out. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be. It's not worth taking. I'll just say, in my opinion, it's not worth taking Social Security before full retirement if you're still working. Okay, so you got to think about that as you plan your retirement. Say, well, if I want to stop working and start taking Social Security, fine. But if I start working again, that's really gonna. It's like, ugh, you wasted it. You know. So think about that. What's your full retirement age? If from this point on, I can still work and take Social Security. If it's before that, I can't. Thoughts, comments about that? Yes, sir.
This might be too deep of a rabbit hole, but for the younger people, and for at least one of my fears, Social Security won't even be around. By the time I'm retirement age.
That is such a nuclear option. I mean, who would be the government agent that would shut that off?
Right.
I mean, they've been saying that since I was your age. Seriously, I've been hearing that for 4 years. I would worry about it. What I would worry about is them. You know what the Social Security tax is right now? On your W-2 income? 15%. How much do you pay?
Half of that.
You pay half of that. If you look at your FICA on your pay stub, you're paying a 7.5% employment tax. Okay? Your employer pays the other 7.5%. Now I could absolutely see that going up, and that's the way they'll fix it. Yeah. So if that's the case, I'm gonna start working as quick as I can. Because you know what I mean? Because you're just gonna get taxed. It's like at that point I'm gonna do a calculation and say, well, there's no sense to keep working. They raise this to 20% or something. That's what will happen, I think. Yes, sir.
If you're self-employed, you have to pay all 15.
If you're self-employed, that's right. If you go on a Schedule C or something like that, you start your own business, you're paying the whole 15%. These guys are own business know that. Yes, sir.
What's the percentage difference from 67 to 70?
It goes up. It's my understanding is you get 130% of it here, and 70% of it here. I think that's the way it is. I'm not 100% sure. Something like that.
So what's at 67? Do you know?
100%.
Oh, that's 100.
That's your full retirement.
30%. So in your opinion, is it worth waiting 3 more years if you're still working?
The break even on that is like 83 or something.
From 67 to 70?
Oh, the break even on 70 is like 83 years old.
But if you already waited to 67, is it worth waiting to 70?
The break even on this is like 80, I think, or 79. How long do you think you're gonna? If you delay in taking it, that's from here to here. That's 8 years of income you did not get. So once you start pulling it, at what point do I make up that 8 years of income that I didn't get? You see why you're break even so far out in the future? Everybody's got to make that decision themselves. And to Jim's point, do you need the money? You know, if you need the money, start taking it. But if you start taking it here, you better not be on a W-2.
I think my 100% was 66 something.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was 67 when I started.
Yeah, so you're good. Yeah. I mean, everybody, you know, you'll see, if you go and you just Google this on YouTube or something, you'll see people trying to talk you into waiving because you get the bigger payout. Sure, you'll get more money, but you might not live this long, and you might not live to 83 to break even, so that's way out there. I mean, so everybody's got to make that decision themselves, you know. Do you need the money? I've kind of concluded in my mind, if I don't need it, I'm going to hold off, you know. But I'm kind of putting it in my calculation, going, okay, if I throw it in there, oh. And if you don't tax it, which is what Trump's talking about, then it's like, okay, well now it might make sense to pull it out. So everybody's got to kind of make that decision themselves a little bit. 65. What happens there? Medicare. Yeah. This is when you can go on essentially government insurance, but anybody who's on Medicare will probably tell you it doesn't pay for everything. So you probably end up having to buy some supplemental insurance. But you can look at it and say, well, if I'm needing health insurance and I'm coming up through here, maybe I should wait a few more years and go on Medicare, or if I retire here, buy, you know, Obamacare or something for 3 years to carry me over, something like that. So this is where Medicare kicks in. My prediction, they'll up this and they'll push that back. If I were to put a prediction in an envelope and seal it, that's what I think will probably happen. Just like they pushed this back. That's how you'll delay the inevitable. Thoughts, comments?
When they push it back, is it for newborns at that time, or is it for people alive?
It's by the year you're born, and like it's all looking at the window within you. Like I think they pushed this to 67, like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but it's if you're born after 1960. So see, it's people that were getting in that window. They were within 10 years of it. That's when they because they don't want to. Imagine if I'm 60, 6 years old, and they come and say, "Oh, pushing it back to 70." It's like, whoa, that'd be really violent, So they give you. So some points to so any thoughts about that before we get into our points to consider here? Is this? Do you guys ever sit and talk about these things? Is this helpful to know these time frames? And the older you get, into your 40s or 50s, it's like now I can see it coming. I can see it out there. So how can I start planning for that? Right? That's really the idea. Point number 1. When surveyed, most retirees say their number one regret was not retiring sooner. I've heard this countless times. Where they'll just say, I should have done this earlier, right? I was able to, but I was afraid. They wish they had that time more. So I can tell you, the closer you get to that window, if you've been in the business world or something like that, or just stressful environments, you're just gonna be like, man, I wish I had done this sooner when you pull the trigger on it. So be thinking about that. You don't want to live with these regrets. And again, if we're going to invest our time and energy into really meaningful things, maybe I can look at it sooner, possibly, right? And have these, what do they say, 60 to new 50? Did I hear that? So maybe you have, some good vibrancy here, and if I keep working, and I do this in my 70s, well, I gave up those good years. So that's kind of the idea, right? Making the switch from earner to saver is very, very difficult. I can tell you this for first-hand experience. When you go from breadwinner, loading the 401k, saving up, watching it grow, to I got to start pulling it out, I got to start accessing that, that is a really, really, really difficult switch for most people, men especially. Really tough. Anybody who's been there want to talk about that at all? About making that switch from, I'm going to start tapping into my savings now, you know, versus keep loading it up. And I was listening to a Dave Ramsey podcast recently, and he had somebody on there who, they had $3.5 million in their bank account. They were 70 years old, and they needed to get a new front door. It was going to cost like $1,000. So he was calling and saying, should I do this? And he's like, well, you got $3.5 million. You can buy a new front door. They said, well, yeah, but that's for retirement. Their mindset is locked at like a 40-year-old that I'm going to just load. And when you got to stop and say, I'm going to start pulling it out or accessing it or switching it to an income generation model versus, you know, just a building savings model, that is really tough for a lot of men, especially. So I want you to be prepared for that. And it's really, really tough.
I still have trouble,
Touching it?
you know, taking out a big amount.
Yeah.
Because I'm now needing to move, because I can no longer take care of my place.
Yeah.
And Jim doesn't like to do that kind of thing. And so I really need to move, but yet I want to save as much as I can for my children.
Right. Yeah. It's really, yeah. Because you think I've been saving this whole life. I've been watching this grow my whole life, and now I'm gonna make it go down. I mean, that is a major mindset block for a lot of people. You just think, well, I'm going to live till, you know, how long am I going to live? And I was at my banker a while back, and he was showing me things out to 91 or 92 years old. I'm like, oh, yeah, 91. You know, and he's like, well, you know, that's what they're making. That's why they pushed this from 70 to 73, because people are living longer. This used to be 70. Now it's 73. So yeah, you know, think about that. I've got to make this. I'm gonna make this move. Am I going to have the courage to do it? You know, or am I going to just keep working my whole life? Yeah.
So how do you get past that?
Planning, prayer, think on it, talk to others who have gone through it.
Yeah.
You know, that's my 2 cents. You know, think on it. There's a guys ever hear of the 4% rule? Anybody know what the 4% rule is? The 4% rule is this idea that when you retire, you should be able to, whatever chunk of money you have, you should be able to access 4% of that a year plus inflation, and it will last you, it should last you the rest of your retirement. All right? So whatever number that is, if it's $100,000, when you start, if you take 4.5%, if you take 4% of that out a year, adjusted for inflation, it will last you the rest of your life. Okay? So it shouldn't run dry. The idea of this is if you've got this thing in something that's making 5 to 7% growth, well, that should balance out, and over the life of you, it'll survive. Now, so you have to ask yourself, well, how much do I need? Right? And you can do the math. You say, well, if I have $100,000, what's 4% of $100,000? $4,000
A year.
A year. Well, that's not very much money. So if I go, well, so if 100,000 is going to give me 4,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, that's not enough. Now, if you add it to Social Security, and you add some other things, it starts to build. So how much am I going to need? So you have to do this math in your head and say, I'd like to have 30,000. All right, what's 30,000 4% of? 1.2 million? I need 1.2 million. 4% a year will give me $30,000. That'll last me the rest of my life. There's a way to calculate it, so you can look back and say, my target is to get 1.2 million, or my target is to get 2 million, or whatever it's going to be, so that can generate. Now, it doesn't have to be the whole thing, but whatever you've got, if you can get 4% out, it'll last you the rest of your life. Yeah.
What was that number you just put up there?
1.2.
Say if I want 30,000.
To make it easy, just add
Yeah,
that.
but what number did you put down?
1.2 million.
1.2 million.
A million, okay, I can't see, so I don't know.
Yeah. 1.2 million at 4% a year will give me $30,000.
Would that be 48,000?
Yeah. It would be less than $1 million.
I just did that math off the top of my head. Is that right?
Let's just make it easy and say we want 40,000.
40,000.
40,000.
Need $1 million.
Let's change it to $1 million.
40,000 is a million.
Yeah.
In a million.
Yeah.
About 40,000. You see what I'm saying? You have to kind of do the math in your head and say how much we're going to need for retirement, And I'll add to my Social Security. Anybody go to socialsecurity.gov and look at what you're trending, you know? Add those things together, and I'm gonna add a, because there's a very important concept here. This is what retirees struggle with that we're hearing, very, very common. Unlike when we're working on a W-2, retirement income can be made up of multiple income streams. I can tell you now, Caleb, Brian, me, Ben, I'm working, I don't want a second job. You know, I don't want another job. This is enough, right? So you're saying, all right, I got this one job and it's providing this much for me, that's fine. But when I go to retirement, it doesn't work that way anymore. I can have multiple streams coming. And you add all those streams up and you go, whoa, that's pretty good. So think about it. Social Security, whatever that's going to be, hypothetically, say that's $30,000 a year. I'm just using hypotheticals here. My savings here generate another $20,000. I might have some investment income or a pension or something that's kicking out another $10,000, right? I look at this and say, well, that's $60,000. You know, so you can have all these different streams coming from your investments, from Social Security, from maybe a pension, your 401k is paying off, Social Security, all these different streams. You add them up, and you go, well, that's not bad. You can say, well, $60,000. You say, well, that's not good enough. I need more than that today. But think about if you're on W-2, what are you not going to be paying here that you're paying today?
Mhm.
Taxes.
Taxes. I'm not paying the 7.5% FICA. What else am I not paying when I'm retired?
Social Security.
I'm not paying, that's this. I'm not paying full loaded health benefits. I'm not loading up 15% a year in my 401k. There's another 15% I'm saving. You look at this, you go, I don't need to make the whole W-2 back. I need to make maybe 70% of it. Does that make sense? I know I'm going kind of fast. Does that make sense? And so you say, well, these multiple streams need to add up to about 70% of what I'm making now. I can retire. And you're in a lower tax bracket. Yes, sir.
I think if we compound that with being debt-free,
Oh.
at that point, right?
Love it, love it,
If you
love
still
it.
have
This
a
guy's
mortgage,
definitely getting first place in the next policy. As you prepare for retirement, strive to be debt to an absolute minimum. I was talking to a friend just yesterday. I got to share. I think this is just a tragic story. 64, he's a couple years older than me. Retired a couple years ago. He's got a $4,300 a month mortgage. And I'm like, man, are you
How do you do that?
at 64 and retired? What? And he said, I know I'm blasting a lot of stuff here, but he got to show you this. Because it's just, his house principal on it's $530,000.
Wow.
His payment is $4,300 a month. And he said he's got a $500,000 annuity or something that's paying him about $2,000 a month. This is what he's getting in income. This is what he's paying on his mortgage. What is the logical thing to do there? Either sell the house or
Refinance.
pay it off. If you pay the house off, you're plus $2,300. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like a 5-bedroom house, big thing. I'm like, plus he has a second house down here. That's in another state. There's a second house down here. And I'm like, dude, I just don't know. I mean, worried about I have to have all this income. Well, you don't have to have all this income if you're not carrying crazy debt. So that's why we talked about getting it. So how do we think about planning for retirement in debt? Yeah.
So the whole thing with that is people fall into the trap of, well, I only have a 3% mortgage and I can make 5% on this money. I might as well keep it in the bank. I didn't want to keep paying that.
Yeah.
And
well, I can tell you that payment, that's not a.
I know. I'm just saying. A lot of people think about that.
Yeah.
That's how they keep that debt because they think they can make more in the market.
Yeah, I will share with you though. There's two really, 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 really good feelings that you can have that don't require any drugs or anything like that. One of them is pay off your house, be debt free. It is the best feeling you will ever have. It is like a ton of bricks lift it off of you. You think differently, you make different decisions, you think more clearly. We've talked about that. You see things more clearly, and you are a better player without debt. So think about if you're planning for retirement, am I going to take this debt into my retirement? Well, I just drove all these numbers up, right? You don't need that much if you don't have debt. Okay, that's one. Number two is when you stop, the second best feeling in the world is when you wake up the day after you're not working and go, I don't have to take a phone call today. I don't have to go to the school today. I don't have to get online today and check email. You know, I don't have to open the store today. When you wake up and go, man, I can do whatever I want today. That is a fantastic, fantastic feeling. And so, how can I get those feelings, right? Well, prepare now. Time in market, we talked about that. You know, we'll do it. Wraps up. And
No, just a question. What advice do you give to single income families for retirement? For you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, load up the 401k as much as you can. We talked a bit about this the other day that this is what I recommend, honestly. Anybody else has a thought? But if you can get a 401k, you can put it's 35 and some change now for my age. Basically, it's
25.5.
It's 25.5, yeah. So you can put 25.5 a year plus any match you have. I mean, a job that offers that's worth it. If I don't have this, I should be thinking, oh, man, I'm missing out on being able to load up that thing and get a company match and get growth. You're going to get you're going to be well over. So I mean, that's going to do it. I mean, I did a compounding interest calculator. You throw $10,000 in there at 24 years old, you'll have $500,000 if you ever even touch it again at 7%. It'll just buy that $10,000. 4 years later, it'll be $500,000. So So if you can load this thing up, every time you get a raise, throw another percent in. Every time you get a raise, throw another percent in. Get that thing up to max as quick as you can. That's what I would recommend. Then when you hit 50, you can do an additional. When you hit 60, you can do an additional. That's my advice. Yes.
I had a question too, because I did notice that with the IRA, you can open up a separate account for your wife if they're not.
Yes,
working, right?
that's absolutely right. For an IRA, at your age, you can do $7,000 a year, I believe, is the number, and you can each do one.
Yeah.
So you could get $14,000 between the two of you if you didn't have a 401k. But you have to have $14,000 in earned income, but you do.
Andrew?
Yes, sir.
I would say budget and
Well,
stick to
we
it.
talked, budget.
I'm sure you guys already
We
talked
just-
about
yeah.
that, but budgeting and sticking to the budget.
Yeah.
Is your
But
at any income.
what's good about these types of things is they come out before you ever get paid, so it's automatically, it's auto
The
budgeted.
thing is, you may not be able to do 25.5 because if you're single income, depending on what you have to spend for 5 kids. But budgeting and staying within the budget is the number one.
Yeah, stay within your budget, keep your debt down.
Yeah, and
Keep your debt down, budget and plan.
Yeah.
You will, every time you get a raise or another job, just tick that thing up, and you don't even miss it that way. You don't miss it. Yeah, John, bring us home.
I want to kind of relieve everybody because I'll tell you, all these things are really important. And, you talked about the guy that built bigger barns and all that, and his life was taken away in the middle of the night. And it's very wise that we plan all these things. However, as Linda once said, that we need to put our trust in God and not our ability to do these things. Retirement is actually a very modern concept. They didn't talk about this 200 years ago.
And they worked till they keeled over, and they didn't live that long.
I'm just saying.
So yeah.
Don't stress out about it.
Yeah. That's why we put all this in perspective. But it is about planning and preparing and seeing. If I want a time of harvest in my life, and I want a time where I want to go serve the church in a real meaningful way, and I can't today because I'm working, well, how are you going to do that if I'm in full time, right? Plan, get yourself in a situation, I can step out, and then say, okay, now I'm going to do some meaningful things. I can serve the church, I can be with family that's spread all over the country, and I can really do some worthwhile things. I can give like no one else, when I've lived like no one else.
planning is being good steward to what God has blessed you with. So
Exactly
it's not.
Right. But this kind of thing helps you to plan a target number. So, got to wrap up. Jim, one more thing.
When I started Social Security, wasn't the life expectancy 65?
Yeah. Yep. So they gave it to you right as you were gonna die.
They didn't plan on you collecting it very long.
Right, right. They didn't also plan on the population paying into it declining, and that's what's happening. Well, thank you all very, very much. Appreciate y'all. Brian's gonna take us into teaching children about money next week, so we'll come back to that. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.